welcome to the Two Fat Brokers podcast. Today we're going to be talking about where UAE real estate has come from. Okay, we're going to try and find out, in a short series about where we've come from, where we are now, what's going on in the future. But we really want to talk about, where did all this start? What's been going on up until now? Just a little bit of a history lesson. We arrived pretty much in 2008, 2009 at a very interesting time in the market. Barney, do you want to just talk about what's happened with Dubai?
It wasn't very interesting. I got off the plane about 2 weeks before the market crashed here. I was in London. The market had been really suffering there for a good sort of 12 to 14 months, and it was an idea to come somewhere where it seemed like the real estate market was doing very well. I landed in 2008. It was it was a very quick decline from there. Prices came off as much as sort of 30-40% in some places. Made it very much a buyer's market. There was still a lot of appetite. I think there were a few people who got a little bit nervous, thinking that maybe this Dubai dream had come to naught. But sure enough, there was a resurgence very quickly afterwards. It was much more of a fire sale.
Where was the peak of the market in Dubai? Like what kind of time?
It was really the end of 2008. That was really when the...
End of 2008.
Yeah, that was really when the peak.
When do you think it hit the bottom?
I'd say it wasn't much more than 7 or 8 months after that, the true bottom.
Really?
Yeah, it was very quick.
It
was very quick. We saw prices... Springs 2-bedroom villas going for like 750,000 dirhams. Now, that's cheap. That's really cheap. And even they were struggling to sell. Look, I mean, it was testament to the Dubai dream that, people stuck here, they stayed with it, they reinvested in the property market. And those who were clever enough to actually get in, they made good returns, very good returns. Now, obviously...
Well, if you get in the bottom of the market, it's very tough to time the bottom of the market, but if you're someone with a bit of cash and you can get in, people say don't try and time the bottom, but if you can see it coming...
Today?
Apparently so.
Today?
So, yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, because you can't time the bottom of the market because all the investors are waiting on the sidelines with the dry powder, and as soon as it turns, they come in, and as soon as it turns, all the sellers go, hold on, the market's turned, I'm going to lift my price.
So what's the catalyst of a turn, though? Of a turn in the market? It's when people see that there's value, right?
Yeah, I mean, usually you can predict a turn because rents start to turn around. Rents are much more fluid than sale prices. So as soon as you start to see rents bottom out, you can usually tell that sales prices will come after that because rents, there's a lot more people renting, so it's a much easier indicator to use. But sales, particularly in a slow market, there's not a lot of sales happening. It's really difficult to see the point at which, sales start to go up.
Okay.
So as for Abu Dhabi, when we're talking about,
Hang on. I'm not finished.
Oh, sorry.
You wanted to see where we came from, right? We're not going to get to where we're going.
Well, we're going to try and do it in a
come to modern day?
No, like at the same kind of level. So
okay.
You've spoken about Dubai and the 2008 crash. So we're talking about Abu Dhabi in the same kind of time period. Abu Dhabi is very interesting sort of case study because until 2005, no one could buy or sell property in Abu Dhabi. Not even Emiratis, I'm pretty sure. They introduced a law in 2005, soon after the passing of Sheikh Zayed, which actually was the first time that Emiratis could even buy or sell property. So then our boom started then, sold a lot off plan, and it went very much the same way as Dubai. We had our peak probably around the same kind of time. It was a global peak, I think, across everywhere. And then we had the same decline, but our decline was much longer. We probably bottomed out in 2012. So ours was a lot longer than Dubai's if yours was that quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think our market was much more real estate based. At that time, you guys had and still have an oil-based economy. Yeah. Dubai was at the time, and still to a degree is very much a real estate-based economy. So, yeah, it was for Dubai. It was pure panic. You could really feel the palpable fear in the air. But as I say, the prices dropped so quickly. We very quickly got to a point where the price point was attractive to people again. And that's when we started to see. I mean, obviously, the free fall, as I say, was about 8 months. There was then a period of probably 4 or 5 months where the market was flat at the bottom, and that's obviously when the sentiment started to pick up again. And then we didn't look back until about 4 years ago.
So the market sort of flattened out through 2010, and then 11 you were on the way back up.
11 we were on the way back up. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then when was the next peak for Dubai?
Yeah, that's a good one. Depends on who you talk to. I think I would say as a realist, we really started to see the market slow and sentiment again begin to change as, about 4 years ago, 2014. So we went from 2011 to 2014 where the prices were going up and up and up and up and, you know, people were making hay. And then 2014, end of 2014, that shine started to come off a bit, and you know, the market started to correct itself.
Why do you think that happened at that point?
I think,
Well,
honestly,
it was the oil price, right?
was oil price. It was around the same time when we were awarded Expo 2020, I think. And I think, yeah, people look around the market in any case and think, okay, well, given the global drivers, I believe this market is overinflated. That I think that was the general gist. You know, people, end users, were not looking at dipping their toes in the market. You know, there were indicators that rents had really reached their peak, and that's when people start to assess their situation.
Because there was a real boom in 2014. Like at least in Abu Dhabi, I think prices went up 25% in 1 year.
Really?
I mean, it really just shot.
Okay, no, we weren't near there. We had quite a steady incline in house prices. There was nothing shocking. You know.
Yeah, I mean, almost exactly the same happened with Abu Dhabi. Again, maybe slightly delayed. What they tend to say is Abu Dhabi is 6 months behind Dubai, but you know, I don't believe that for various reasons. But that's just the way it's worked out recently. But yeah, so we had the bottom in 2012, and then probably till the end of 2014, even into 2015, we had pretty decent growth. Then 2015 was flat. And then, you know, we've been coming down ever since then. And for me, the point there was the oil price it got destroyed pretty much, and global markets went from $100 a barrel to about 25, and Abu Dhabi government stopped spending. So prices, jobs were cut. Abu Dhabi government stopped spending, and Abu Dhabi government is the massive driver for real estate in Abu Dhabi. And if they're not spending, you know, it kills the market. People just don't have the cash to go out and buy. But also, if you know the government's cutting jobs, and the government's a massive employer in Abu Dhabi, people don't have the confidence in their own job to buy a property because they want to hold it for at least 2 or 3 years. And if you're not sure about your job prospects, you know, you don't want to buy.
So what sector do the Abu Dhabi government employ in mainly? Is it still oil and gas?
Yeah, oil and gas. I mean, that's the big one, obviously. ADNOC shed about 20,000 jobs, I think, in between 2015 and 2017. So that's a big chunk. But also, you know, stuff like Etihad Rail, you know, the infrastructure projects that the government doesn't necessarily employ people in, but it green lights. There's also massive offshore islands being created, just you know, infrastructure projects, which all got put on hold in 2015. You know, even things that had been green lighted before, the government just said, listen, we're not sure where the oil price is going. You know, just stop paying.
So your market came off in 2008, 2009.
Yeah, so probably the peak was right at the end of 2008, and then it slid down to about 2012.
Same as Dubai, but then you hit the bottom at 2012. So you only had 2 years of growth.
I would say so.
That's probably why you saw that massive spike.
I mean, full 2013 and 14, and then a bit of 2012, yeah. And then 15 was pretty flat, and then we really started to come down in 16.
Yeah, so we always say that, like you said earlier on quite rightly, that the Abu Dhabi market is 6 months behind Dubai, and I think it used to be, but judging by this information, they're almost divorced from each other. You know, they follow the trend, but they're years apart. Do you think
no. I mean, you know, I think ours in Abu Dhabi, where our peaks are, our slowdowns are a bit slower. It's more gradual because we've got a lot more bigger landowners. So we've got guys who you know own an entire block of flats.
I've got to empty the dishwasher. Sorry.
Good idea. We've got guys who own an entire block of flats, and they can sit on 25% vacancy, right? And try and keep rents high. Whereas I think in Dubai you've got a lot more individual owners, and they need to rent their property, so they'll be very commercial and very market. So I think your corrections happen much sharper because you've got a lot more guys who really want to rent out their property. But in Abu Dhabi you've got a lot of private offices, a lot of people own full buildings, and they're able to, sit on higher vacancy levels than most people can, which means our drops tend to sort of go on longer and maybe be a bit slower.
Surely that doesn't make any sense in holding a 25% vacancy if you can drop the rents by 10% and fill them.
Absolutely right, but it depends how much you need the money.
Yeah, true to a lot of sentiments in this part of the world. Yeah, that's very true.
Well, when I first came out here, I didn't know where Abu Dhabi was, and I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it said in Wikipedia, I don't know if it says that now, but 10 years ago it said that the average wealth of an Abu Dhabi citizen was $16 million US. Yeah.
Wow, and you came out for a slice of that, didn't you?
Clearly, some's richer than others, and I can't remember where that Wikipedia quote was from, but that's just what it's
probably written by a really wealthy guy.
Maybe. All right, so you guys hit the peak in 14, and what's it done? What's it end of 14, and what's it done since then?
It has been a slow decline. Yeah, slow decline with very little market indicators is when that's going to turn around, and. There's really not else a lot to say about it, and I wish I could shed some light on. I mean, the obvious reason it was overinflated. You were to put it into British pounds, you were looking at £600,000 for a two-bedroom house with a nice bit of land. Now, in anybody's money, even though it's a tax-free environment, that's too much money for a two-bedroom house.
Not in London or New York or Paris.
Yeah, but this isn't Kansas.
Location.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I don't think Dubai is in a position to compare itself to London or New York just yet. Give it another century or so. Anyway, I think that was obviously a market driver. I cannot really understand why it's been such a long and slow decline. Like you said, Dubai has been boom and bust, and 2008, 2009 it was a very quick decline. I'm wondering why, and I genuinely can't shed any light on it, why it's been a 4-year decline. Global markets have come off probably in the last 2 years, so that would obviously be putting pressure.
But global real estate's been increasing since probably 2011. We've had our little double dip recession here. Whereas the rest of the world, real estate has just been going up and up and up. Because for me, it's because of the oil shock, right? Dubai, although it doesn't have any oil in and of itself, it's a hub for the Middle East, and the Middle East, whichever economy you look at, Saudi, Kuwait, UAE, it's taken the issues with Qatar has taken a massive hit from the oil shock, and so Dubai has taken that hit. Although if you look at the growth figures, UAE has been growing anywhere between 0.5 and 2% even over that entire time.
So why has the oil price hit a non-oil based economy harder than it's hit an oil based economy in terms of real estate price?
No, I mean Abu Dhabi real estate has been going down 10% a year. It's been hit much harder than Dubai. Dubai, I think, is averaging 5 or 6% a year, depending which way you look. So we have probably since 2015 come off 35%. We've been hit very hard. Yeah, but and then and that's just on the demand side. Then if you look at the supply side,
we're running a huge supply.
Yeah, so Dubai is running a pretty big supply. I think I looked at the figures the other day. You're probably going to add about 8%, additional stock this year to what you already have. I think Jones
8% versus current ready stock.
Yeah.
So how many units? 20. They predict 21,500, 22,000 units.
It's higher than that. Well, it depends who you talk to. There's all different kinds of reports.
Yeah, that was in the Gulf News, I think.
But the one that I like, I think, is Jones Lang LaSalle. It tells you actually how many units are in the market. So when someone says there's 30,000 units coming into the market, you can actually put that in context about, okay, but compared to what? So I think there was an additional 8%. In Abu Dhabi, we're looking at an additional 3%. But and this is a bugbear of mine in terms of supply. For me, it's the off-plan market, because there was a time when people weren't buying off-plan, and developers had to really understand. Okay, I'm going to deliver this in in 2020, you know, and I got to sell it then, what's the market going to be like in 2020 and try and predict that. Whereas now, you know, if a developer can sell off plan tomorrow, he doesn't care what it's going to be like in 2020. He cares about, can I sell this off plan tomorrow? And then it puts the whole onus about judging what the market's going to be like, you know, when it's delivered on the retail investor. And he's not, you know, sophisticated enough to be able to do that, whereas the developer is.
A developer may be sophisticated enough, but I think you can't treat investors with kid gloves. It's your job as to do your due diligence as best you can when investing in property. It isn't up to the developer to go, hold fire on this one. I think you're going to be in for a rough time when it hands over. Let's just sit on this. It's up to the buyer.
Yeah, but
to the buyer.
No, but to a certain extent, so we have rules in terms of when let's say investing in hedge funds and private equity funds, right? Only certain classes of investor are allowed to invest in those.
Can't do that with real estate. It's such an open asset class.
Well, you can't do it with real estate, but you might be able to do it with off-plan, because off-plan is an incredibly risky asset, right? It might not get built. You can what you get delivered is not what you think you got. Yeah, when you get it delivered, it's worth less than what you bought it for. So it is a risky asset. So then I guess to wrap up this podcast, so we're talking about, okay, so what has happened. So in Dubai, I just want to recap, so from end of 2014 to now, not talking about now, that's another podcast that we'll be doing now.
To yesterday,
yeah, not today.
I would say, I would say it's been a very, very slow decline. And I feel like, and I'm going to go on to the future, I feel like it's a very difficult thing to predict, as you say, to try and predict the bottom. But, you know, I think if you are here for the long term, and if you are going to, you know, call the Middle East and the UAE your home for a while, it is a great time to be a buyer. It is a shocking time to be a seller.